So once again, I welcome you all to this very special 144th session of Leadership Talks. As you know that these sessions are being organized by India International Education Council and School Lalaji Solutions. India International Education Council is a not-for-profit organization which is working in the field of education. It has collaborators from 12 countries. It aims to create a better world through education. Building quality centers for elementary education approachable for all kids is another goal of IIEC. It is also finding best educational practices across the globe and find ways to implement those in Indian institutions. It is also creating more awareness on hygiene and learning disabilities. It publishes a magazine called World Education Review and many other educational reports. It aims to build 100 chapters in different cities by 2022. It will soon open its membership for institutions and individuals. It also impart training for leaders, teachers, students, and parents. As you all know, that so far we have conducted 143 sessions. In these 143 sessions, we have received 17,576 registrations, 16,389 questions. We have received participation from 7 countries: India, USA, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Nepal, Kuwait, and Russia. From India, we have seen participation from 22 states and 120 cities. We aim to organize minimum 200 sessions. With this, we would be reaching out to 100,000 educators, 20,000 institutions, and 1,000 plus eminent speakers like today's speakers would be joining us to share their perspective and thoughts on national education policy. With this, I would request you all, please join me in welcoming our key speakers for this very special 144th session of Leadership Talks. Our first key speaker, a very senior education leader, Dr. R. Gopalji. Dr. Gopal is the director and head of department with School of Management at D.Y. Patil University, Mumbai, Maharashtra. Professor Dr. Gopal is basically an engineer from IIT Kharagpur in mechanical engineering. Subsequently, he did his MBA, ICWA, PhD, and postdoctoral research degree and DLIT. He has more than 27 years of corporate experience at Bush India Limited and Larsen Toubro, Tata Economic Consultancy Services, and at Siemens. Additionally, he has more than 30 years of teaching experience in various B schools in and around Mumbai in the areas of marketing, finance, and general management. He was also the visiting faculty in several B schools in USA. In the USA, he has conducted several programs on topics like how to do business in India. He has also published more than 200 research papers, both in Indian and foreign journals. He has been awarded the best outstanding research paper at Asia Pacific Marketing Conference held in Malaysia. He is the guide for MPhil and PhD students of several universities in India. More than 100 research scholars have received their PhD and MPhil degree under his guidance. He has received many prestigious awards for his contribution to the field of education, like the Rashtriya Vidya Saraswati Puraskar, that was awarded by the International Institute of Education and Management. Another prestigious award, Rashtriya Vikas Ratna Award, awarded by Economic Growth Society of India. We welcome you, Gopal sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next key speaker, another senior education leader, Vivek Agrawal ji. Vivek ji is principal with ESS Convent Senior Secondary School, Agra, Uttar Pradesh. Vivek ji is a well-known and respectable name in the field of education in Agra and nearby areas. He started his journey in the educational spectrum in 1990 by teaching human anatomy to the students of a diploma of physical education in Jhansi. He then shifted to Agra and started his career by joining St. Paul Church School. He served in many prestigious institutions in Agra in various capacities. From 2013, he started serving as an educational administrator, deputy head of GD Goenka Public School, Firozabad. Since then, he is serving various schools in the capacity of principal and vice principal. He is loved and respected by all the management, colleagues, students, and parents around him. He believes in happy learning. Every child has a potential to serve society and the country. This is his philosophy. He is an active member of the global spiritual organization Oneness University from Andhra Pradesh since 2001. We welcome you, Vivek sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next speaker, another senior education leader, Payal Mohanji. Payal ji is trustee with the Marble Arc School, Mumbai, Maharashtra. She has over 20 years of experience in the field of education. She is a strong believer in holistic education. She encourages students to follow their interests and passion. She feels that students and parents have joint responsibility for the welfare of the students. She has been recognized and awarded for her contribution to the field of education many times. We welcome you, Payal ji. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Great to be here.
Welcome, ma'am. I'll come back to you. Our next speaker, Insia Rahim ji. Insia ji, director with Toddlers Nursery, Pune, Maharashtra. She has done a master's in management from Syracuse University, USA. She also pursued teacher training and preschool management course in USA. Having studied and taught in the US, she brings a lot of value to Toddlers Nursery by bringing an international curriculum and methodology to the organization. Ms. Rahim is also the founding director of Learn to Teach, which is a complete education service provider with a focus on online teacher training and parenting. She has conducted numerous parenting workshops and has trained 4,000 plus parents and faculty from schools across the country. She has been invited to be the youngest member as the head of Pune chapter of the Early Childhood Association. She is also the first to bring Nadagini, a US-based 12-symbol English reading and pronunciation program that teaches anyone to read in 12 weeks. Above all, she is a proud mother of two wonderful children, Alia and Rehan. Ms. Rahim loves to read, travel, scuba dive, and spend quality time with her family. We welcome you, Insha ji. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Welcome, ma'am. And our last key speaker, a very senior EdTech leader, Jaswinder Singh ji. Jaswinder ji is founder and CEO of Wordsworth ELT. Jaswinder ji has an experience of 30 years in the field of education and technology and has also served as a consultant to UNESCO on education. Wordsworth English Lab is designed for India and is highly research initiative of the F-Unit Group. It is a trusted education company with 2 decades of service in technology education and training. Its expertise in technology, multimedia, and content development has been instrumental in presenting a world-class language lab solution for academia in India. In a short span of time, Wordsworth English Lab has managed considerable recognition across the country for its unique content and methodology. Over 3,000 installations in institutions across the country stand testimony of the quality in product, implementation, training, and the continual service provided by the ACT unit and its committed network of dealers. We welcome you, Jaswinder sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. So with this, we come to the next part of the session, which is the opening remark part. I would request all our key speakers if we can have your quick 1-minute opening remark. So I would first request and invite Dr. R. Gopalji. Gopal sir, if we can have your opening remark. Sir, you are on mute.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Audible.
Okay. So, good morning, Dr. Rajul, Mr. Vivek Agarwal, Mrs. Payal Mohan, Mrs. Insia Rahman, and Mr. Javinder Singh. And thank you, Dr. Rajul, for inviting me to this all-important 144th Leadership Talk Service on decoding NEP 2020. To begin with, the NEP 2020 is a long and much awaited document. It is well documented and it is very, very far reaching. The policy comprises of 60 pages, broken down into school education, higher education, and implementation and how to make it happen. The aim is essentially to produce or provide equitable service access to all, irrespective of the socio-economic condition. The school education includes not only hard skills, which is very important, but more important than hard skills is the development of the soft skills, including cultural awareness, empathy for others, perseverance, grit, teamwork, communication skills, etc. The policy is based on the principle that school education should be flexible, no hard separation between arts and science, and should be multidisciplinary in nature. The education system accepts, which is very important, that teachers and faculties are the core of the learning system. And It's structured around 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. And very important from the student's point of view, there shall be no separation between arts and sports and between arts and science, which means that up to the end, arts and science will be taught together. And then one extremely, extremely important in school education is to have a fun project called as Languages of India. And there will be Sanskrit which is offered. When we move to the higher education, it becomes in higher education shall strive to be multidisciplinary. And over the years, they will be classified as universities, teaching universities, and an autonomous degree. Very, very important, very, very important. There shall be a bank of credit, academic bank of credit, so that credits received in one university can be transferred to other university. And all teachers would undergo continuous professional development. Allopathic students would have a basic understanding of Ayurveda, yoga, naturopathy, etc. And from governance point of view, all HEIs, there shall be a board of governors consisting of highly qualified, competent, and dedicated personnel. Overall, I must say that the NEP is 2020 is a disruptor. Mark my words, is a disruptor in the education system. It tends to break the existing system and take it forward so as to make it a Nalanda University of the world. Now, with these opening remarks, where I've given you a gist of the entire education policy, what it aims to reach in the final end, I leave it at this stage, and I'll elaborate this when I come back to the second part of my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And absolutely, a lot of other educators have also shared similar views that this policy has a great potential. We would come back to you to learn more from you in that regard. So now, with this, I would request Vivek sir, if we can have your quick 1 minute opening remark.
Very good morning to everyone. I hope everyone everyone is able to understand and hear my voice. Thank you, India International Educational Committee Society, for inviting me on such a great platform to share my views from the eminent personalities of educational world. I'm humble to hear the opinion of eminence Dr. Gopal about the education and NEP. I'm worked throughout my life in schools, so I will focus on the effect of NEP, requirement of NEP in the current educational scenario. For me, educational spectrum has to be changed, and since long, educationists were craving for the changes. So this new NEP is a far required step being taken by this current dispensation. So there are some nitty-gritties which are already practiced by some of the educationists in their own personal way. But now, as it became mandatory to everyone, so the effect of it will be far more superior than the individual efforts of the educationists. For me, the highlight of the new education policy is connecting the students with the roots. Let it be the education till grade 5th in their mother tongue, or let it be understanding the ethics and morals. Previously, we in our school used to teach morals through books only, and students were burdened by the copies and by writing and learning answers of it. Now, education policy says that it has to be come into the practice. It should become the behavior. Until unless it became the behavior, it is not going to affect the life of a person. So right now I'm ending up my words right now. When my turn will come, I will elaborate about the importance of NEP in the initial stages of education, or we can say in the preparatory stages of education. Thank you once again for inviting me for such a great platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek sir. Education spectrum has to be changed. We'll come back to you to understand from your perspective how this NEP is going to change that spectrum. Big thanks for joining. I'll come back to you. Now, I would request Payal ma'am, ma'am, if we can have your quick opening remarks.
Hi and good morning. A very warm welcome to all my fellow speakers. Really looking forward to this interaction. Firstly, I'd like to thank the India International Education Council, Raju sir, for giving me this opportunity to put forth my views on the NEP. As everyone has mentioned, it's a wonderful document that specifically lists out what the future of the Indian education system should be like. And, by organizing these wonderful talks, I think it's helping everybody in the education field to view it in a different perspective, in a different manner. My topic for today is Every Learner Matters, Inclusion in Education. So I'm really looking forward to putting forth my viewpoint on this topic.
Thank you, Payal ma'am. Absolutely. This is a very sensitive area. We all are very excited to hear your ideas, in that regard. Big thanks.
Thank
I'll come
you.
back to you. Now, I would request Insia ma'am, ma'am, if we can have your quick opening remark.
Thank you so much, Raju sir. First of all, I'd like to thank IIEC, World Education Review, for organizing these sessions. A very good morning to all the fellow speakers and panelists. I'm really excited to be talking about the NEP 2020. Firstly, I think we all owe a huge congratulations to the committee that has drafted this document. It is commendable work. They have put in a lot of effort into putting this wonderful document together. Yes, it is very ambitious, but at the same time, there is nothing that is impossible. I'm sure if everyone works together, it can be done. I'm excited more so because this is the first time that early years has been given its due credit and importance in the NEP. I'm not sure, Raju sir, how many early years educators you've invited so far, but I'm really thrilled and glad that at least early years has finally got its much deserved seat at the table, because it is a fact and research shows us that 95% of brain development is happening in the early years, in the first 5 years. It's like when we are sowing a seed in the first 5 years, the kind of nurturing, the kind of environment, the kind of nutrition that that seed is going to get, the fruit will be born only 5 to 7 years later. It will be in vain if we only focus on the higher education and higher school and not enough in the early years. So for me as an early years educator, I'm going to be talking about the impact of the NEP on early years. And I'm really excited to have a seat on the table, like I said.
Thank you, Insia ji. Absolutely, we all agree with you that these are the years which are most important. The best part is that though we have invited a lot of people, a lot of experts from early years, but the best part is a lot of people who are from higher education, who are from school education, they have also talked about the importance of early years. So now I believe the one big achievement this NEP has already done, that it has created that mass awareness about the importance of these years. Now a lot of people have formally recognized the importance of these years. So big thanks for joining. I'll come back to you for a detailed perspective. And now with this, I would invite Jastinder sir. Sir, if you can have your opening remark.
Yeah, thank you, Rajul, and good morning, everybody. Good morning, ma'am. So, as Dr. Gopal rightly said, this is a disruptive policy through a very big disruption on the way, but in the positive side, right? Disruptions have yielded good results. If you see, look at the last 10, 15 years, disruption like the way aggregators have come in, people in education have come in, even the cab guys have disruptors, but they have made life beautiful. So this disruption in education, if brought in properly and if implemented properly, I'm sure it can do wonders. I come from the field of EdTech, education and technology. I'm going to talk about how a lot of things which are difficult to achieve, we can achieve using technology. And we also are into language training. We basically are a language lab company working with 3,000 schools and 1 million students. So I'm going to talk about the impact of the changes that the government has suggested for the kind of languages to be used in the early years, and later on what is going to happen, what kind of languages are going to be worked on. So that is what my focus is going to be. So I'm going to take it up during my second part of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, and welcome. I'll come back to you. With this, we come to the next part of the session, which is the main talk part. But before I invite our speakers for the main talk, I just would like to share the learnings which we have had during our last 143 sessions. During our last 143 sessions, almost all the participants shared that this is a wonderful document. This document has the potential to place India at that coveted position of Vishwa Gyan Guru. But at the same time, almost same number of participants shared that this is going to be very, very challenging, in terms of execution. A lot of people shared their, their respective assessments. What would be the key challenge areas? A lot of people said the teachers training is going to be a key challenge area. Many people said yes, teachers training is an area of concern, but the bigger area of concern is lack of intent among teachers to get trained. A lot of other participants shared their assessment that good schools in urban areas already implementing many of these, ideas. The biggest challenge would be for rural school, budget school, and government schools. Many other participants shared that this pandemic has exposed the poor distribution of digital infrastructure in our country. So that is going to be another, big area of concern. Many people also shared that finance is going to be a key concern area. So with this, I would request all our key speakers that while sharing your remarks, while sharing your perspective, if you can also share some idea, some best practice which you have been implementing in your respective institution, so that we can all learn from each other. The session become more useful and engaging for all of us. So with this, I would invite our first key speaker. I have another request that please keep the time limit in the mind, that 8 to 10 minutes, so that we have sufficient time in the end for the questions. So with this, I would invite our first key speaker, Gopal sir. Gopal sir, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Rajat. Rajput, I'm very, very happy. I would break my speech into 2 or 3 sessions. One, I want to talk about some 2 minutes I want to spend on the highlights of the NEP 2020, which for me is a critical. And then I would move into the school education. And then I, coming from the higher education sector, would like to talk also on the higher education. And the last but most important thing is I've been talking to a large number of stakeholders, and they have suggested certain strategies which I want to place before you. And many of these strategies we have already been following in our universities and in our schools, which are forming part of the university. So I want to talk about that also. So let me begin now. The NEP 2020, in its quest to make India great, I developed a very, very beautiful blueprint. As I mentioned earlier, it has caused disruptions. Let me turn around to the school education part. The policy is based upon the fact that school education should be flexible, no hard separation between arts and science, and should be multidisciplinary. Additionally, it should be holistic in nature. And I'm laying a lot of emphasis on this word, holistic. Conceptual thinking, and there cannot be any rote learning, because we in our school days have been taught to memorize and repeat, write verbatim. That should be avoided. Ethical behavior, constitutional values are something which is very critical. Teachers are the core, and it specifies that for school education, minimum qualification has to be B.Ed, and the teachers have to pass the teacher's eligibility test, which is very, very critical, which means you are talking about the capability of the teacher himself or herself. 50 hours of continuous professional and shall follow a 5+3+3+4 pattern. I don't want to get into the details because these are already there. The curriculum should help students develop skills, holistic development, topic-centered, and project-based clubs. one of the biggest challenges which I see is, while everybody talked about other things, for me, availability of the teachers is the most important thing. And that too, availability of teachers in teaching in the mother tongue or the home language. And especially when you are talking of the fun project, that is Languages of India, an introduction of Sanskrit at a very, very low, at the early stages of learning. Some of these, as you have rightly pointed out, and many of them have pointed out, have already been implemented in private schools. But the issue is, especially in the government schools and in Tier 2 and Tier 3 schools. And this policy hopes that the dropout rates in these cities would be reduced. In urban areas, the real issue is availability of quality and talented teachers, because most of them are absorbed by the corporate world. When you turn yourself to higher education, the NEP 2020 is a game changer. I'm repeating again, it's a game changer insofar as higher education is concerned. All HEIs shall be classified as research institution, teaching institution. All universities shall have a 3 or 4 year undergraduate, and the very, very important, very critical, like in all developed countries, there shall be the creation of academic bank of credits, through which credits received in one university can be transferred to another university. All important, all critical, another critical area, all universities shall conduct a 4-year B.Ed program. With this, the bank of teachers for school education would increase. Interdisciplinary is being aimed at through allopathic learning, the alternate medicines and so on. The NEP talks about an investment of 6% of the GDP. This is something which has never occurred. Even the last budget which came up recently talked about less than 3% of the GDP being allocated for education. Why is all this so critical? Because when you look at the environment today, whether we like it or not, the student demographics are changing. Especially in the urban areas, the female child is getting more and more prominence. There is an information blast, whether it's at the school level or whether it's at the university level. Growth for for-profit education and changing nature of the workplace. We earlier used to talk about job security. If you ask my father asked me, don't get into private sector, get into the government sector. Why? Job security is there for you. Today, the job security has vanished. I'm now talking that many more openings are available in the private sector. And the nature of working itself has changed, starting from the pandemic. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Let me.
I would request, Sir Gopal sir, I would request if you can switch off your camera. I believe internet bandwidth is the problem. So if you can just switch off your camera while speaking, so that would help.
Okay, let me do that.
Sir, switched off the session. Yeah, you join it back. Sir, you are on mute now.
Let me put off the video so that it becomes clear. Yeah.
Yes, sir. It is better now. It is audible.
Okay. There is a shift in the nature of work from work from office to work from home. And very important, I mean, I do not know whether a lot of us have understood this or not, but new technologies are impacting us every day. AI, robotics, visual planning, all this is impacting us, and many of things are becoming old. What does the stakeholder expect from the entire education system? The student is interested in something more than what is available in the books. He wants at the higher level, he wants a good placement. At the school level, he wants to get into what he prefers the best. The parents are interested in making the child a good child. They want them to become entrepreneurs. And very important, very, very important, the parent expects the school or the college to be a 24/7 parent. I do not know whether the school has realized this or not, but many of the schools have told me the parent says, I'll send the child to you. Now you take care of him. I'm not getting into it. So while the school is in the child, while the child is in the school, the parent expects that the child should be given all treatment and taken care of. The management is concerned with the profitability. The industry expects students to have good application and holistic knowledge. You know, I've been talking to various industry personnel, and what have been telling me, they say only 20% theoretical value. 40% will have to be holistic development, and the remaining 40% is application knowledge. From this, we can therefore conclude that the essence of education is to ensure that a student should have a rounded development, contribute to the society at large, and service to humanity is the key. And this is what the NEP 20 aims at. The Gurukul system which we had in ancient India is something which needs to be developed. And this is what we are seeing at certain universities which are coming up nowadays, where all the skills are taught for the child to become self-sufficient in life. And there is an opportunity given to the child to develop and implement and improve on those skills which are very important. And here I must say, faculties and stakeholders are very, very important in this. And more than the stakeholders, we as faculties are responsible. I've been talking to a large number of people and they said, Gopal, there is a 15-point strategy which you must follow. I do not know whether we can follow all, but even if we follow 5 or 6 of these strategies, I think we'll make the country great. And we will help in rounded development of the child and contribute to it. What are the use of innovative teachings, like the reverse teaching, experiential learning, organizing industrial visits, both one day as well as week-long visits. Visit to villages for urban students and vice versa. Organizing international visits, organizing guest lectures, organizing ISR projects, that means institutional social responsibility, compulsory participation in sports, skill development, governance aspects improvement, and creation of e-cells. In higher education, it's very important for us to implement the learning management system. And I, for one, believe that only a happy faculty can spread happiness. Work from home, flexible timing is required for creating a work-life balance. Many of the faculties today are stressed out. There is too much of administrative work, too much of educational work or academic work coming in. And in the process, many of them lose out on the work-life balance. And the industry people have said introduction of special classes for communication, is skill development, personality development is very important. Well, if you look at all these strategies, what do these strategies mean? They say, make learning a pleasure, not boring. I'm repeating again, make learning a pleasure, not boring. And if we do that, then we have captured the entire essence of NEP 2020, and we have captured the entire essence of education. And thus, if we implement even 5, 6, 7 of these strategies, I'm quite sure the child will become a good citizen, contribute to service to the society at large, and service to the humanity is the ultimate key. Thank you, guys. I hope I made myself clear, and God bless all of y'all. And I'm open to questions, as you said, after the, yes.
Thank you, Gopal sir. I would say you have highlighted and you touched upon all the important aspects of national education policy. You made a very strong assessment, and we all agree with you, sir, that NEP is a disruptor in education. You talked about how NEP is promising that holistic, conceptual thinking-based education, and it would avoid the rote learning aspect of our education, which is the major playing a major role in the current system. You also talked about that NEP is putting teachers at the core. And you shared a lot of initiatives. You talked about like project-based clubs. You said like it's a game changer in the higher education space with the various new initiatives, be it exit entry system, choice-based credit system. Yes, we all agree with you, sir. You also talked about that more GDP allocation to education. It's a very good move. And then you touched upon the importance of technology. Yes, we all agree with you, sir. The technology is impacting us every day. You also shared your assessment that this NEP would create an environment where we would be, going back to the Gurukul kind of system. At least in terms of deliverables, we would be creating that kind of environment for education. You also talked about why we need empowered learners, why we need to make our children self-sufficient. And this NEP is promising in that aspect. And in the end, you called upon all the educators, all the teachers that we must work in collaboration to make learning a pleasure, not boring. So big thanks, Gopal sir, for sharing your wonderful thoughts. I would come back to you with questions. Thank you, sir. And now I would invite Vivek Agrawal sir. Vivek sir, if you can have your ideas.
Thank you, Gopal sir, for your baffling explanation of NEP. And it almost challenged all of us to give our 100%, or we can say we have to work out of our skin to fulfill the expectation what you have explained to us. Thank you very much. I want to focus my first few minutes on the question which moderators have raised about how teacher and educational institutions are going to address the mammoth task, what we can say Herculean task, which we are assigned to. The changes which is happening right now is remind me of one special and very, very important sentence said by one of the educationists, that today society is not worried or shocked about the changes. They accepted that change is going to happen. But what we are shocked about, the rate of changes. How much changes our society have undergone since last 5-10 years. The working style of society have changed. The objective of society and life is almost changed. The pace on which we used to live is changed. The concept of family is almost changed, and is changed dramatically within last decade or so. So as society is changing, and the objective of education is to produce the student which is fit to survive in the society and to serve the society. So the education has to be changed. So the step in of this new NEP makes sense. Society has to change, so education also has to change. That's why we have to look forward, because we have missed the bus. We certainly have missed the bus. Society need these reforms at least 10 years back, but we have missed the bus. So, but as we teachers always says, it's never been late. So now this is our time. We have to catch the bus within 1 or 2 years. Otherwise, our Indian society, which is one used to be known as Vishwaguru, are going to be lacking behind. So this NEP, And now I'm focusing about early childhood education, and which I love most in this NEP is they have given certain tasks. Previously, nursery, LKG, UKG was in Netherlands. In some of the very good schools, they have a structured structure which was inspired by the IB or some foreign boards. Sometimes it was not very useful for the Indian condition, but still, because of their uh, concept about the education abroad, we were using it. Other most of the schools are not having a structured curriculum and thought process about the education of early childhood care and education, but they have given clear instructions about developing curiosity. This is one of the objective of education. Why we are giving education? At least until unless a student got curiosity to learn. So this step is going to definitely take away students away from rote learning. Then next is logical thinking and problem solving. This is one of the 21st century skill. Now most of the uh, what we can say entrepreneurs are hiring people on the basis of their soft skill, or what we can say their skill which is required for the business. They are hardly looking towards your educational achievements, marks, degrees. Now 70, this is a record, this is a research that 77% of the employment today in society is done on the basis of the soft skills you have. Only a very small percentage is based upon the marks you are getting. So these definitely going to enhance the logical skill and problem solving skills of a students if we started this in the very initial stages of the education. Art, craft and music is also one of the uh, area which has to be included in the education, and an NEP is fulfilling it. It seems that moreover we are becoming human, we are becoming robots, we are becoming machines. With learning of machine learning, we are also becoming something like that. We have structured our life in such a way that we are losing aesthetic sense. Many of us have not experienced the drops of the rain since very long. Many of us have not experienced the smell of the mud in that rainy weather since long. So we are losing the touch of being humanity and the touch of human beauty. So art, craft and music since a very starting age, and the importance of this is going to make us a bit better human, and we are going to be able to appreciate the beauty of the creator. Then relationship with nature. Though we have included environmental practices, environmental science in almost all the academic activities. But in the initial stages, if we make a bond with the nature, definitely a child having a bond with the nature in the initial stages itself is going to follow this bond and cherish this bond throughout his life, which is going to change the face of the earth, and mother earth is going to be more prosperous and happy in that way. The academic part will not be very difficult. They should have a basic concept. So NEP wants them to identify colors, shapes, alphabets, and number in the very initial stages, which will work as a foundation for the further learning in their upcoming classes. Then, which is one of the most important soft skill they have included is teamwork and collaboration. This we are seriously missing in our society nowadays. Now, most of the problems we are facing either in our personal world or professional world is only because of the lack of these soft skills, teamwork and collaboration. So now NEP wants early childhood care and education to implant and inculcate teamwork and collaboration in the child from the very, very initial stages of education. Then, as Dr. Gopal also mentioned, that this is high time, we have to make learning a fun or pleasure. So, they have included play-based, discovery-based learning. The child have to learn by various activities. As we all know that learning is not a single phase activity. Many person, because of the individual differences, they have a different style of learning. So there are most pleasurable, easily method of learning should be play based or activity based learning. So discovery based learning, play based learning is a mute point of NEP for early childhood care and education. Then they have also mentioned ethics. So this is a point. From very initial stages, child should understand what is wrong, what is right, what is good, what is bad. If child today, there are many things which parents wants child to learn from the school. This is what we can say idealistic or model dilemma of education. There are certain aspects which students should learn from the home itself, and teachers feel that these are the part of responsibility of the parents to at least teach them ethics. But now NEP is going to solve this dilemma, that this is teachers' responsibility to show them what is right path, what is wrong path. But we should be careful enough not to dictate the terms to the students. Let them decide, let them see, let them feel by their own experience that if they are doing such thing, whether they feel this is right or wrong. If something happens with your own family, then how you are going to feel it, whether this is right or wrong. So this is going to be the path for the student to determine the process of his life and how to he act in the society, how he is going to contribute towards the society. Then one most important thing, we try to become a global citizen, but in that process we lost the process of learning about ourselves. So first we have to learn, first we have to identify about ourselves. So that is self identity. Until unless students know their own existence, what is the objective of it, how important we are on this mother earth. So we can see right now many of the students are feeling depressed, many of the students are feeling disheartened about their achievements. They feel their life is not worthy enough to live. So from day one, we have to let the student understand that they are the most precious thing which can happen to their parents. You are the most important person of the world. Until unless we have the understanding of how important we are for this whole world and what all we can do to make this world a better place, we are not going to create the miracles. So first and foremost, in the initial stages itself, NEP wants us, means educators, to teach them etiquettes, behavior and emotional development. Previously, we thought that these are the work of the special educator or counselor to do certain things. But now NEP wants take full control, full responsibility of the child's initial nurturement, initial grooming. So we have to work really hard. First of all, this requires the change of mindset. Thank you. I'm stopping myself now. I think I have over speeded the time. Thank you. Thank you for reminding, sir. I'm open for the questions. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Big thanks, Vivek sir. For these wonderful thoughts. you began by calling that education spectrum has to be changed, and you explain in a good way how this NEP is promising to change that spectrum. You began by sharing your assessment that this NEP is a strong attempt to connect our learners with the roots, and then you talked about and explained how we have we are late by at least 10 years in introducing these reforms, but you rightly said late is always better than never. You also talked about the right the opportunities which are being given to students or which are being given to our learners, not on the basis of their marks but on the basis of the skills they have. And this NEP has rightly focused upon inculcating the right set of skills. You also explained that 21st century skills, be it collaboration, teamwork, critical thinking, assessment, so we all, as an educator, we all need to inculcate these skills among our learners. You also talked about where, diversity among children, children have different ways of learning. A teacher, must get empowered to identify and recognize these diverse ways of learning and must make learning a fun activity. You also talked about that today's teacher need not to become an instructor. It rather should behave like a facilitator. In fact, a lot of people in the past session have also shared that today's students don't come to teachers for the information. They have far, far bigger sources of information than teachers. Today's students are coming to teachers for the perspective. So we all agree with you, Vivek sir. You also talked about the importance of self-identity. And absolutely, a lot of other senior educators have also shared these views that it is very, very important for students to, to understand themselves. You also talked about other key important, I would say, skills, be it behavioral, emotional intelligence, etiquette, which this NEP is talking about. So big thanks, Vivek sir, for sharing these important points from NEP. I'll be coming back to you with questions. Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'll come back to you. Now, with this, I would invite Payal Mohan ma'am. Payal ma'am, if you can have your ideas.
Sure. So, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it was wonderful to hear Vivek sir and Gopal sir and their views on NEP. I think everybody has similar views that it is a wonderful document. It is long overdue, but yet implementation is definitely going to be a challenge for everybody concerned. All the stakeholders, that is the school, the management, the students, the children, the teachers, society in general, everybody has to put together and come together to try and find a solution that works for everybody. My specific topic of interest today is every child matters, inclusion in education. Now, a long time back when we actually started our education system in India, we, as I think sir has spoken before also, we had the Gurukul system in which to a great extent there was inclusion. Everybody used to stay, work together and, learn different skills. But that over the years gradually disintegrated and we started into something known as segregation, special schools for children with learning disabilities. And today, our greatest challenge is to try and form schools that have inclusion in it. So in the year 2009, we had the right to education bill, which guaranteed education for everybody. And after that, children need to get included into a school system. We can't have segregation. We can't have different schools, different sections for them. They have to be part and parcel of the same classroom. Because really learning disability is like any other issue, just a way in which they need to be taught separately or differently. It's not that there's an issue with them. It's not that they have any problem. It's just that they need to be taught in a manner that they understand. So instead of making it a teacher-centric education system, we needed to make a child-centric education system where every child, irrespective of their ability, irrespective of their issues, needs to be taught in a way that helps them grow as an all-rounder. For me, holistic education is very important because I feel that marks and just rote learning is not going to help in the future. As I think most of our learned members have also said, panel speakers have also said, today corporate India, which is where the future is going to be for our students, where they're going to look for a job, is all about soft skills. It is all about people skills. So the new education policy is wonderful because it talks a lot about 360-degree report cards. It talks about mentor teaching. It talks about peer teaching. And all this is going to really help the students understand each other better, work with each other better, and help each other grow rather than constantly work on a competition-based system. We are trying to work on a friendly, healthy, help-based system, which I think is extremely, extremely important for us today. The other aspect is that I think most of us who are in the education field know that the earlier we identify a learning disability, the easier it is to try and overcome these learning disabilities. And which is why I think what INSEA ma'am said, that the new NEP policy is covering the pre-primary section, that is from 3 years to 6 years, is an extremely, extremely important aspect of the new policy. It will make identification of learning disabilities in students very easy. Children with special needs will be able to be taken care of at an earlier stage. Parents will understand what their child wants, will be able to understand how to teach their children, and that in the long run will help the child do much better. In the earlier system, identification of learning disabilities would come only as late as 8 years or 9 years, when they were in the second or third standard. By then, the parents are also unwilling and not always eager to, give us a thought or even listen to what we have to say. But now with the possibility of being identified as early as 3 and 4 years, parents also will be eager to listen because they want their child to do better. And early identification of a child who is facing any kind of learning disability, whether it is dyslexia, whether it is dysgraphia, or any other kind of learning disability, will make it far more easier. The other aspect of the NEP that is really very interesting to me is the fact that the B.Ed education has now been shifted from the original 1 year that it was for years and decades to then 2 years and now 4 years. Because the education system or the teacher training in the B.Ed originally was so focused on only visual aids and how to teach through aids, that these aspects that today in the world are very important, like identification of learning disabilities, identification of children who are slow learners, children who have borderline autism, children who have, not very obvious disabilities like, Down syndrome or, ADHD. This will, if this becomes part of the B.Ed curriculum, which I'm sure it is now that the B.Ed is a 4-year course, it will make identification by teachers extremely easy, because after all, they are the first line of defense for our children. Before parents identify, in many cases, it's the teacher who identifies that the child needs some extra help, some special help, some extra work. And today, for the NEP to be implemented, like everyone has said, it is extremely important that our teachers are trained. So at every level, we need to constantly train our teachers. We need to constantly upgrade our teachers. We need to constantly allow our teachers to interact not only with the students, but also with the parents, so that the teacher, the parent, the student, the management, everybody is on the same page as far as the child is concerned. Now, a child, as everyone says, when they are in the pre-primary, is like, wet clay. We can mold them the way we want. And if we join hands with all the stakeholders, which is always the parent, the teacher, the society, the community, the school, the management, we can turn out beautiful children. And a child is like a raw slate. We can write whatever we want on it. And the earlier we get to it, the better it is for everybody concerned. So in that sense, this NEP is wonderful, because for years, the pre-primary section was totally neglected. We all talked about 6 to 14 years. And in fact, as a lot of our speakers have said, with the explosion of the internet, with so much media hype, with so much availability of knowledge, children today know everything. By the age of 6, they, I think, are way well-versed, far more knowledgeable than any of us. And I think a 6-year-old child, if you hand him a mobile, I think he'll work it, or a tablet, far better than any of us can work it. It's like he's just born with, those skills. So identification of issues at that age will make things so much easier for everybody concerned. And yes, the NEP is a difficult thing to implement, but it's something that is very, very necessary for the future. India is has got, I think, one of the youngest populations in the world. It is a population that is going to become the workforce, not only for India, but also for the future, for the generations, for the world to come. And in order to ensure that we, come onto an even platform, an even playing field, because today the world is an oyster. Nothing is very far away. The pandemic has taught us that work from home, you can sit in any corner of the world and you can do your work. So for us to, make sure that our future generations grow, our future generations can compete on an even playing field, we need to really work together and try and implement the NEP as soon as possible, as smoothly as possible. And, with, of course, disruption will be there. There will be resentment. There will be some kind of, give and take. There will be discussions. But I think if we all put our minds together, if we all in our hearts feel that this is what is the requirement and the need, then I think nothing is impossible, because change is the only constant. So I think that's all I have to say about this at present, that, we need to really think, and we need to plan, and we need to be firm in our decision that this is what is required, this is what we need to do, and this is what has to be done. And then we roll up our sleeves and we do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Payal ma'am, for sharing these, I would say, important thoughts from that very, very sensitive area. Absolutely, we all agree with you, ma'am. This NEP has focused, in that inclusive education. You also talked about, how our old system like Gurukuls had that inclusive system, and how in the process we lost that kind of sense. You also talked about that holistic education always has more importance than the, the achievement of marks. Even in the real life, the opportunities which are being given, as Agarwal said, also said, these are being given not on the basis of marks, these are allocated on the basis of the key 21st century skills like people skills, soft skills. You also talked about that this NEP is going to create an environment where parents' proactive involvement, would be easy they would be more proactively involved with the process. So it would become more convenient, to achieve that holistic and inclusive education for all. You also talked about those, B.Ed reforms, in particular, with regard to that inclusive education, how teachers are going to get empowered to recognize various limitations in students. So it would be, I would say, convenient for teachers once they have recognized their limitations, then to find solutions for those kids. You also talked about why we need to constantly upgrade our teachers. You also talked about the importance of training to parents, why that constant communication is needed. And then you shared, and we all agree with you, the children are more tech friendly, than us, than teachers, than their parents. And so we need to adopt technology as well. So big thanks, Payal ma'am, for sharing these wonderful ideas. I would come back to you with questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure.
And with this, I would now invite INSEAD ma'am. Ma'am, if we can have your ideas, your thoughts.
Thank you so much. I think those were wonderful insights by Dr. Gopal as well as Vivek ji and Payal ma'am as well. What I'd like to add is that, like I said, I'll be talking about the early years. Being a linguistic person, when I went through the NEP, what I picked up, I usually work with acronyms and keywords. So all the key points that I would like to highlight today, I will throw an acronym at you. And the acronym that I have put together is quality, because NEP talks about quality education for all. So the first key point that I would like to highlight, the Q in quality, stands for Quality ECCE, that is Quality Early Childhood Care and Education for All by 2030. We all agree, that's what the NEP says, and we all agree the NEP is an ambitious document. And this is not going to be impossible. If we all understand what does this Quality ECCE stand for? Quality ECCE doesn't stand for just opening up Anganwadis and Balwadis, or just including nursery to grade 2 as a foundational stage in every school. Like Vivek ji rightly said, that quality early childhood care and education stands for, yes, the right infrastructure, but also with the rightly trained, nurturing teachers, with having a curriculum and framework that focuses on skills like curiosity. Gone are those days when in early childhood we are just going to focus on the names of rote learning vegetables and farm animals and wild animals and so on and so forth. It's the time to focus on the critical thinking. Who is a wild animal? Why are they considered wild animals? Why do some wild animals eat meat and some don't? Why do humans have 2 legs and animals have 4? These kind of questions and curiosity building is going to be a game changer. This is what is going to change children from telling them what to think, but moving them in the direction of how to think. So I think Quality ECCE for All by 2030 stands for Q. Moving on to U, U stands for the Unified Framework for ECCE. And at this foundational stage, when they're talking about focus on foundational numeracy and literacy, this is really exciting because, like Gopalji said, that we are focusing on holistic learning. It's not just A for apple, B for ball. It's understanding the letters and the association and mapping of the sounds with the letters. Understanding that language as a whole consists of comprehension first, listening skills, comprehension skills, and then you come to your creative thinking and creative writing and understanding, and that is how your communication eventually improves. So understanding that sound symbol association from an early age, moving away from focused only on rote learning and writing, but comprehension, critical thinking comes first. When we talk about foundational numeracy, it's not just about saying that a standing line is number 1 and 2 half circles is number 3. It's not about recognizing patterns as numbers. The focus is on understanding the value. We Indians have given 0 to the world, but 0 is not just a digit that means nothing. When we talk about 0, it's the place value that we gave, right? When we are saying single digit 2 stands for 2 objects, the value of 2. But when we add a 0 to it, that same number 2 comes in the tens place. So that stands for 2 tens. And that 0 now has a value that there are 0 units. So this place value, this concepts and pre-math concepts is what are really, really important right from the early years. And this unified framework is something that is going to bind all ECE together. Next, the A stands for the allocation of 6% of the GDP, like my colleagues have already spoken about. And I think this is huge and very, very important, because if such an ambitious document has to be put into action, then we need resources to support it. And increasing from almost 1.6% previous allocation to 6% is, I think, very, very rightly put together, because that is the need of the hour. That is something that is really exciting. The L in quality stands for local language, that is teaching in the mother tongue. Again, this is going to be a big challenge as well, because there are many cities where you have multilingual students coming in. So how is that going to work out? We'll have to think about the nitty-gritties. But at the same time, when English may not be a first language for many students, it may not be the first language for many educators and facilitators either. So I think that gives them a lot of empowerment to be able to facilitate and educate in the right manner, where language is not a barrier. The concepts can still reach the children, understanding can still happen. And specifically in the early years, children have a capacity to learn up to 6 languages simultaneously, provided that the exposure is given. And if we don't focus only on English, and English only being the important language, we can now expose them to multiple local languages, which will be a big boon to our children, because like I said, in the early years, children have the capacity to learn up to 6 languages simultaneously. We as adults, if we want to learn a new language, be it a local language or an international language, it's very, very difficult, because 95% of the brain structure has already been formed. But in the early years, when we will expose our children and teach them in multiple languages, I think that is going to be a big, big advantage for all our learners as well as educators. The I that I would like to stress a little bit on is the integrated 4-year B.Ed program for the higher education. But I think what's also very, very important that the NEP needs to focus on is a very, very holistic and solid early childhood education program, because if we want to start right from the early years, then our teachers need to be trained right from the developmental milestones of children, to brain development, to various pedagogies, to the how to assess learning in the early years, to these 21st century skills that we all have been talking about: curiosity, critical thinking, teamwork, collaboration. First, the educators need to understand these skills in depth, and only then will they be able to enhance the learners and bring out these skills in them. So I think training is the key. As Payal ma'am also rightly said, we have to talk about inclusion. Early intervention is really, really important. And this early intervention can happen only when the educators are trained on specific learning difficulties, identifying them, and strategies to work with them. Which is why at Learn to Teach, we are one of the few institutes that have online training specifically for early years, as well as to facilitate parents and teachers in learning difficulties as well as special needs. So when teachers will understand that what are these specific learning difficulties, they are not watertight compartments, and many children have multiple learning difficulties. So as a parent, as an educator, how do you identify those learning difficulties at an early age? How do you work with children and change your method of teaching them so that children can overcome these learning difficulties and learn just the way other children do? That is, I think, really, really key. And these kind of trainings will really go a long, long way. I'm really excited to serve and be, part of the process of training teachers and faculty across the country if given a chance. The T in quality stands for the transition of the early to the primary years. And like everyone has been talking about, 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, the first 5 years talks about from age group 3 to 8, which will be integrated and considered as the foundational stage, the foundational numeracy and literacy state. I think this is the biggest key and the most exciting part about the NEP for an early educator, because previously what used to happen is when we consult with a lot of schools and we focus on the early years curriculum, we get a lot of resistance that no, you have to include a lot of writing. There's so much of pressure because in grade 1, that much of writing is expected from the children. Formal education starts right from grade 1. There's a lot of pressure and burden. So that transition becomes very difficult. But now with the NEP saying that up to grade 2, up to 8 years will be considered as the foundational stage, now we don't need to pressurize children into writing when it's not developmentally appropriate. When the fine motor skills are still not developed at the age of 3 and 4, we are pressurizing them into writing. All the efforts are going into writing vis-a-vis critical thinking. Instead of focusing on teamwork, collaboration, focusing on curiosity. So these skills are lagging behind because we are pressurizing them to do something that they're not yet ready for. So this transition stage and the 5 years coming under the foundational stage will really be key. And definitely we've read it so many places that whether governments want, it's the government's choice whether they want to invest in prisons or preschools, and I'm glad that they are investing in the preschool stages. And finally, the Y in quality stands for your role. When I say your role, like my peers have also said, U stands for the management of schools, the educators, the parents, the community by and large. It's now time that all of us put aside our differences, put aside our inhibitions, and come together, work together selflessly, keeping the child at the center. What is best for the child? The NEP is a child-centric document, and keeping that at the core, I think we all need to work together. We all need to support each other, whether we're from the private sector of education, whether we're from the public sector. We all need to work together and achieve this gigantic task. And I think it's very doable, very achievable. Of course, it might take a while, but with technology as an enabler, with training as an enabler, I think it's really possible. And for me, I look at it as a great opportunity. I'm really looking forward to working together and putting the NEP into action. And thank you. I'll be taking questions later.
Thank you, Inshaji, for sharing these wonderful points and for explaining all the important aspects from the ECC point of view. You touched upon all the important aspects, be it how the good changes have been made in regard to ECC or unified framework, how it is going to help. You also talked about that allocation of 6% GDP to education is as a laudable effort. You also talked about the impacts this 4-year integrated DEAT can have on our education. You also talked about the importance of training, and we all agree with you that it's very important. And you made your assessment, and we agree with it. That early intervention can happen when teachers are trained, teachers are empowered to recognize and find solutions. You also talked about the transition stage, and in the end, you called upon all the educators and we must work in collaboration to execute this policy successfully. So big thanks, Inshaji, for participating and sharing your thoughts. I'll come back to you with questions.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I'd just like to add one more point. I remember you said earlier that you would like us to share some best practices. So if you allow me a minute, I would like to share a best practice. Is that okay?
Please.
Yes. So with respect to training, what we do at our institute is we have a blend. Sometimes we do call upon experts to come in and train our teachers, but there are many a times what we like to do on a monthly basis is that we ask our teachers to go ahead and do research, and they can do research on one of two things. Either find out something that they are really struggling with and they are lacking with, something that they want to learn more about. They need to do research either about that topic, learn it themselves, and then train the rest of the teachers on something that they feel they're very equipped with. They feel that that is their strength, something that they are really very good at, and that is going well for them in the classroom. They can put together a presentation or a training on that topic for the teachers. So these, I feel, are simple ways that without shelling out, putting a financial burden on the institute, using your own teachers as resources, we can incorporate a lot of training at a regular basis into your institutes. And of course, there are times where we do need to call on experts. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a very wonderful and very useful exercise. Thank you, Anshul, for sharing that. And now I will invite our last key speaker, Jaswinder sir. Sir, if you can have your idea on that.
Rajulji, first of all, your voice is not very clear. You need to work on that. Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to talk about technology and how we can use technology to achieve a lot of things which are expected out of NEP 2020. Like earlier put up by Dr. Gopal, and I've also put up that it's a disruptive thing. That means there's a huge change which is coming in, and there's a lot that needs to be put into that. How do we achieve all this with whatever time we have left? We've got a huge country.